I was told it was dangerous to run E85 on hybrid turbos for the B9.5 because of fueling limitations, but completely safe on pump gas. Is there any truth to that? Can you elaborate? I wouldn't say that's true. It's definitely not 100% true. All the tunes that we offer are validated to be safe. There are fuel system limitations that we work with, and all of our tunes take into account any limitations. So
yeah, we're trying to keep well within the factory fueling limits. Yeah. Now, more fuel is being delivered. If there's something compromised on your setup, those limits are going to be lower, and maybe lower than what 85 can support. But it's generally not a, it's not like we're asking for more than what the stock fuel system can provide.
There's a previous video where we discuss some of the new updates that where we released the standard alpha file that may be helpful for them to watch. We talk a lot about the margin of safety between what you're doing and the limit, and one thing you have to accept is the further you push these motors, the more power you make, you are getting closer and closer to the limit, and so your margin of safety does shrink some amount. I talked a lot about what the margin of safety is, how it shrinks, what components or systems are involved in that video. But you're always going to have more failures on a stage 3 tune compared to a stock turbo tune because everything's just being pushed harder and closer to the limit. That doesn't mean it's not safe. That doesn't mean you shouldn't be running it. There are some challenges with these motors at those power levels. Injector failures are one. Spark plug failures are another. The factory spark plugs are known to fail. If you are driving your car and you feel a misfire or something not good is happening, and you think you may have burnt a spark plug or you may have an injector that's failing.
Basically, anything just feels off.
Anything feels off. What I don't recommend is stopping and doing another quarter-mile run just to see if everything's okay.
If that was actually a thing.
And we had a customer do that recently and ended up blowing their motor because they had some compromised situation. If they had waited, they probably wouldn't okay. But when you're driving a factory car that's now making 750 to 800 crank horsepower, you're going to have to be a little more careful. I mean, that's more than double the factory power. And again, we determined that these tunes are safe, and we have thousands of customers running them safely with great results. But that doesn't mean like once a month someone's not going to pop up with a blown motor because of some of these other variables, things that happen. So you are closer to the limit. Like bungee jumping is safe, but people die every year from it. Skydiving is safe, but people die every year from it because every once in a while the safety systems don't work, and so. Is it safer to bungee jump from 10 feet than 100 feet? Yeah. You have a much bigger margin of safety.
But how are you supposed to make sure everything's okay if you don't launch it immediately?
Right, in all caps.
It's diagnostics. Like something felt wrong, you need to slow down, just take a step back and figure it out. You don't just keep, pushing the thing that might be, might have an issue until it really has an issue.
Yeah. So if you're concerned about safety and the thought of damaging a motor just would bankrupt you or be very problematic for you, then I don't recommend, going with the 750 horsepower kit on your first shot. Do the stage 1. That's very safe.
And we also have a reduced torque or reduced output file for the,
yes,
basically all of the higher fuel demand files.
That's right.
For that reason.
For stage 3, we have high output and standard output files. The standard output files are safer just because they have more margin of safety built in.
Mm-hmm.
But again, the high output file is not unsafe, but you're riding right, next to the limit versus, having a buffer zone there. They don't fail. You run them too hard. Only reason the plugs melt is because run them too lean. It's actually not true. Our tunes, our standard and our high output files do not run lean, and they don't run too lean.
If they did, it would be a engine-wide problem. You would have more than a single cylinder event.
We recommend for these higher stressed applications, running the brisk plugs, we've had better results with those than the factory plugs. And the plugs, they don't last forever. They have a greatly reduced lifespan. But spark plug isn't the only thing in the combustion chamber that can melt. Intake valves, exhaust valves, piston ringlands, the piston itself, the rings, all those things can be damaged by high heat. So if the only thing that's failing is the spark plug, and eventually something from the spark plug breaks off and damages your piston combustion chamber because you keep running it, even though it's misfiring, that's not because it's too lean. That's because the spark plug failed, and now you've caused more damage.
Yeah. And again, if it was a tuning thing, it would be all of the cylinders would be affected the same way. You're working on an entire motor calibration here.
The safety of margin sacrifice longevity for power. In general, we haven't seen reduced longevity from running stage 3 high output tunes. So this would be like, is the motor wearing out faster? Do the piston rings wear out faster? Do the main and rod bearings wear out faster? Do the cylinder walls wear out faster? Do the valves wear faster because of the increased stress? And it's hard to say. I mean, maybe these motors could go for like 500,000 miles, but because of stage 3 tuning, they only go 200. I mean, we won't know that for years and years and years. But we've had stage 3 turbo kits on the market for several years now, and we're just not seeing customers wearing
anywhere,
including our in-house cars, which one of our in-house cars has like 50,000 miles on stage 3, and it has excellent leak down and compression numbers, like very, very good.
Yep.
So no, I don't think that's the issue. The issue is more if you have a component failure that's supporting the output of the motor, and then it runs lean for some reason because your injector is clogged or stopped firing or is only firing at 50%. That's when the bad things can happen. But it's quite rare on our tuning.